Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Driving and Dragons, where we build cars and break down TTRPGs for the better enjoyment of your hobbies. This time, while I cruise the Alabama back roads and await the arrival of the '74 Dodge Dart project car, we ask, are you experienced? Yes, it is indeed time to continue our exploration of development and advancement in TTRPGs. The ins, the outs, the ups, and the downs of all things related to how our player characters grow in game. Over on my Patreon, we are slowly growing with a second member signing up and new views every single day. I would really appreciate it if you can. Please throw a few bucks at the Dodge so I can get it rolling for one very happy subscriber. But either way, sign up so you can get the early updates and see what's coming up here on Driving and Dragons and take part in the discussion on what I'm going to be putting up next. I'm going to be reshooting a lot of my old content, cleaning up the scripts, taking them into fleshed out video essays instead of stream of consciousness, and getting the audio quality up to snuff so that content can be useful for you guys in your games. I'll probably start with alignment since that happens to be one of my favorite soapboxes to climb on. But I definitely would love y'all's input on it. So like, share, and subscribe, and click that stupid bell thing so you don't miss it when it drops. Today, however, talking about experience points as a reward. No, not as a reward in the normal sense of giving points for killing monsters or completing goals, but XP as a reward ad hoc for different things at the table. It's a common piece of advice here in YouTube land. Encourage good roleplay or good player behavior by rewarding the players with extra XP. I even saw a comment on X from Professor DM, no less, stating that he would give extra XP to the player who came up with the quickest and least complex way to resolve an obstacle facing the party. Now, that was clearly tongue-in-cheek because that idea is incredibly stupid. But it does show a thought process in even some of the most knowledgeable and experienced GMs in the hobby to treat XP as just another reward like treasure or some kind of cool item. So what's the problem? Why is XP as an ad hoc reward to an individual PC any worse than, say, a cool magic sword? The sword increases their power relative to the other player characters just like the XP would, often in a more immediate and direct way. So what's the deal? Well, I'll tell you that in a skill-based game, like Call of Cthulhu or Cyberpunk, it isn't a problem. Hell, in Cyberpunk Red, it's literally built into the advancement point system used to advance characters. But things are a bit different in the class level-based systems like 90% of your D20 or OSR games out there. I'm going to assume that since you're watching videos on my channel, that you're a somewhat mature adult who doesn't boo-hoo and cry about things not being fair because Bob's character got something special and your character didn't. Yes, random XP rewards for subjective and often poorly defined reasons can lead to cries of favoritism or picking on people, and when certain players seem to get them, more often than others, that good old 97-3 rule comes into play. Even if the good stuff happens to you 97% of the time, in the 3% of the time it's not happening, all you ever hear about is how it never happens. Vice versa, if bad stuff only happens to somebody 3% of the time, during that 3%, they're always talking about how this always happens to me, even though it doesn't 97% of the time. But like I said, mature adults know how to deal with these emotional falsehoods, especially when it's a damned game of make-believe magic elf adventures. No, we need to look into the real issues with this type of reward system, not the ones that simply stem from childish lack of emotional control. Probably the largest and most obvious issue is that in order for the reward to be of any meaning at all, it must be for enough experience points to make a significant impact on character advancement. If 10,000 XP is needed for a level up, giving a 50 XP reward for good roleplay or a clever use of an ability is the equivalent of a TGI Fridays manager giving a server a gold star sticker to put on their name tag. Appreciate the recognition and all, but unless it can be traded for a paid day off, or that gold star comes on a gift card or with a check or something, it really doesn't do that much. You need to be giving out 50 XP rewards several times a session just to move the needle, making the entire exercise pointless. The issue really comes when the reward is of a meaningful amount. Same example, except this time the reward is 2500 XP. Okay, a quarter of a level. Ultimately, no matter what criteria you use for the reward, there's going to be a player that gets more than the lion's share, and even more, unfortunately, it often does so in a manner that has the opposite effect that's intended. We incentivize things to encourage them. You want to sell more F-150 trucks? Tell the sales staff there's going to be an extra $500 commission on all new F-150s. Want more people to get married and form family groups? Tie a big tax break to being married and having kids. The problem here is often there's unintended consequences of incentivizing the wrong players with these rewards. Let's examine a classic example. A game master says he wants more active role play from his players. He wants them to come out of their shells and get into their characters. So he starts handing out XP for cool role play moments. Here's the problem. Now he is not just incentivized role play, he is incentivized spotlight hogging. Instead of the new player who needs a little encouragement to try to get into character, you get that one theater kid who method acts his characters between sessions, sucking all the air out of the room and chewing up every scene, even when there is a clear and apparent reason that it is a situation where another character should shine. That doesn't matter. There's XP on the line for great role play, so I, the more comfortable and experienced player, shall do what I must to win as many of these session rewards as possible. As a GM, I essentially have taken a player that I want to get more involved, and I've pitted every other player at the table against them in the development and execution of that area of play. This also inevitably leads to a significant gap in player character abilities. Take the above examples of 2500 XP rewards and a 10k needed to level up, and the first player to come up with a quick, simple plan. If I'm handing out 2,500 experience points per session to the player with the most quick, decisive plans, my most tactically minded, mechanically knowledgeable player is about to gain one additional level every 4 sessions. For the sake of easy math, let's say the players level up once every 4 sessions on average. By the time the party hits level 5, the guy who's getting all the 2,500 experience points rewards is level 9. By party level 10, his character is level 19. You can see how that unbalances the party pretty aggressively. By party level 5, anything that threatens the player that's sucking up all the extra XP is an automatic TPK for the remaining players. The solution to that? Well, one player can't get the reward twice in a row. Okay. So the guy who is sitting out gets to be cheated when a place he can really shine shows up on his off cycle. Or worse, that player has minimal participation because he knows that he's excluded from the XP reward. This may not even be in bad faith. Hey, I just got the reward and I can't get it this session, so I'll let the others get their shine. Even if that means that I could move things along past something that they're beating their heads against the wall to figure out. That's okay. I'll just make the rewards not tied to any specific activity. I'll make sure to spread them evenly. Congratulations! You just increased the XP per encounter with a bunch of unnecessary extra steps. Perhaps even more problematic is that unlike the magic sword or great piece of cyberware or cool tome of mythos lore, there isn't a good way for a GM to correct an error with XP rewards. You gave the reward. That character is now ahead of the others. What are you going to do? Take away the reward functionally by having a level drain monster focus fire that PC, or otherwise nerfing his levels? You can't take it back or adjust for it without seriously undermining the core functionality of what that player's character is when you're over rewarding blunder advanced that character. All in all, XP should be group rewards for overcoming obstacles and completing tasks, not simply an extra item in a horde. I'm going to wrap this up with a brief statement on why it isn't a problem with skill-based systems. And there's two really kind of big reasons for it on the surface. First, in a skill-based game, a GM can very often target the reward. You didn't just get bonus XP, you got bonus advancement towards your hacking skill because you used hacking in a creative way. Instead of an XP reward powering up the entire character, it is focused on one specific area related to how it was earned. Second, most skill-based systems have a slower overall power creep because each advancement is a careful balancing act to building a well-rounded character and getting a very good at a particular independent role. These naturally lessen the negative impact of meaningful ad hoc XP rewards. So that's what I got to say for today. What do you think about XP as a reward? What pitfalls do you see in this practice? How am I wrong? What am I missing here? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear what you got to say, and I'll see you guys next time.